Let's get right into it, though, for Game 2. Picks and bans ready now. Is Simplicity trying to bounce back and take a victory? Could be the 3rd and 4th seeds, though, in Europe, who come away with victories here today, Tully. Outcold already bested the top seed Flashpoint, and Caso up 1-0 on the 2nd seed Simplicity.
It would be impressive if Caso were to find victories today, knowing that they had to switch up their coach position, knowing that they are kind of mixing things up in the picks and bans, and it's been working out, I would say, with WorstTurttle playing this Hobwa. That late game chase down potential with the Alice of the Yellow River was just so easy for him, it felt like.
A lot of mages off the board early on. Freya and Nuwa, the 2 bans by Simplicity. Kronos again by Caso. Really want to keep that out of StreakUp's hands, it seems. He did have an okay game, I'd say, on the Merlin, but not ultimately what they were looking for, as there is the Merlin ban. So 4 mages now off the board. Achilles available here. Gibalanke still available. Jormungandr still available. Yep. There's a lot. I feel like Caso, in situations like this, where it feels like there's a lot of different gods that are all really good, that's usually this team in the 2nd pick who's coming out on top because they get multiple of those.
That's true. In the first game, Caso, in that Merlin ban slot, they banned away Fafnir instead.
Yeah.
They don't really expect Simplicity to first pick the Fafnir, and maybe that's what they're going to go for themselves.
Now, the Hercules pick, though, is the call. I mean, Genetics has played a lot of Fafnir during his time in the minor league, so that's a kind of standard ban against Simplicity at times. I think we have seen Simplicity put pretty heavy emphasis on it early in their draft, but Caso going right back to Hercules and Erlang. No Nuwa this time around, but sticking with their guns and what worked for them in Game 1.
The front line was pretty effective at controlling a lot of space. StreakUp, once he did, or sorry, rather Dracomarino, once he did pick up that shield of regrowth, was just all over the place, really trying to make those plays happen.
There is the Fafnir for Genetics, as we kind of expected. Pairing alongside that Jormungandr that does basically relegate Jorm to the solo lane, though we've seen him play it in mid, so there's always that potential. AMC, this seems much more like a mid lane god. DeathPanter has always loved playing hunters in the mid lane, Tully.
And AMC is one of the more popular go-to hunters. The Stinger having so much damage early game, and also plenty of scaling, 120% scaling if I'm not mistaken. So you land that bad boy with a Transcendence, and that mid-mage, whoever it is going to be feeling it.
Well, another Hobwa selection. This one could go in mid this time around, though I suspect it's still going to be in the jungle for WorstTurttle. This AMC pick is really, really risky, though, Tully. I mean, sure, you can crip out the Hercules and the Erlang, shut down their movement, but both of them get on top of you very, very well, and once you get picked up by Hercules or pinned by Erlang, there's not a lot you can do.
It's a risk versus reward, because also a Muzen has plenty of mobility to be able to dodge and weave through the traffic. So Hercules is going to be looking for the plays, but as is a Muzen, it's about who lands their buttons better.
And on the other side, AMC, very, very good at applying anti-heal with Brawler's Beat Stick. All it takes is a little honey proc, and you're good to go. So could be very strong against the healing of both Hercules and Erlang Shen. I'm already looking at that mid lane. If that's where AMC is going, could be in the duo, but this AMC is going to be critical in Simplicity's success no matter what. There's a couple hunters banned away by Simplicity now, Jingwei and Rom, whereas Caso takes their shots at the junglers, Ratatoskr and Daji, and right back to the Ullr. Caso is 4 for 4 so far on picks that they played last game.
And the thing is, whenever you have Hobwa jungle, Ullr middle makes a lot of sense. You're trying to separate that damage, right? You want to have a good mixture between physical and magical. And Ullr middle was a lot of popularity between, I think, Heroin and Season 3 middle.
Yeah, he liked it a lot. He did. Excuse me, by the way, that was Ullr for Simplicity last game, not for Caso. Though we did see him in the mid lane, and I expect to see him there again, potentially, as Poseidon, the last pick alongside Susano for Simplicity. So we saw a mage in the duo lane last time. How do you think Poseidon does if that is going to be Poseidon ADC?
Well, it's just going to be exploiting the no CC immunity from Erlang Shen, as is Ullr. The cripple Kraken combination is really going to exploit the front line, I think, out of Caso.
An interesting draft from Simplicity. Caso basically sticking to their guns, which is what won them Game 1. Let's see if it's enough to win them Game 2 as well. Finch and F-Dot bringing us the action.
I'd be more than happy to bring you the action.
I could do that too.
That's right. I got F-Dot here with me, who's pretty good at bringing the action.
I've got the action right here.
And we're taking to the desk. Is that where he wants to bring it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's already been brought.
It's already been brought. As Simplicity have got to be reeling a bit, feeling like they probably had a good chance to win Game 1 and let it slip away with them with a couple of bad team fights. Froisan has stepped up for them, though. I think that's a good sign for their team. They can feel like they can definitely still win. They just have to make sure they're playing clean the whole way through. As Draco considers trying to come invade the speed again. feigns like he's backing off and then does go steal it. Meanwhile, Genetics is doing the same thing. He drops the horrific and moves right in, but autos are not enough to contest.
It's a Hebo. You're not going to steal that away from a Hebo. Walk away, buddy. Walk away. So
like both were
I
confirmed,
actually was the Nuwa banned?
In this game?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Okay, well, it's very interesting to see Warchi kind of switch it up here because the rest of the team are relatively the same, and I don't need. I like the idea. If you don't need to swap, you don't have to.
Sure. Nuwa was banned, yeah. We just got to confirm from production.
Exactly. So Caso right here, like, sure. I guess we'll pick up the Hera, who is commonly considered a better character.
Right.
And really, what was Caso doing with the Nuwa? We did see Warchi at least 3 times use that ultimate.
What a hammer, by the way, from Genetics. That was sick. And now Dracomarino goes down. DeathPanter finds first blood. Easy as just hitting a sick hammer in the middle of driving strike is all.
Easy for Finch. Nice job there from Genetics. Just nailing it. No, I mean, that Genetics has been on point, and
He has been, for sure.
he's a strong player. Listen, I was very vocal about himself getting him banned, getting himself suspended mid-tournament. I thought it was an egregious happening, and I thought it was an egregious lapse of judgment.
Hey, it wouldn't have been a big storyline if he wasn't good. Like, it wouldn't have mattered, right?
That's where I'm coming, is that, like, you know what? If he's able to kind of fix things up, which it seems like he has been, and he's going to keep making plays like this is absolutely one of the premier support players in the minor league. So Genetics, no surprise to me that he's nailing mid-driving strike hammers. It's kind of what I sign up for when I'm watching Genetics.
I very much trust this guy to be able to execute well, and he's done a great job with it so far. He's rejoined StreakUp here in the duo lane, which is why we see Dracomarino making his way here too. I don't know if this is exactly what Dracomarino signed up for, a laning phase Hercules. He's really seemed to like rotating around and harassing in the jungle and maybe even catching off guard in mid. But looks like he's been kind of pulled over by Genetics.
Well, that's what he was doing in game number 1, and I think that it was more to do with the overall strategy, because if you looked at the post-game analysis, Dracomarino only had about 6,000 or 7,000 player damage when the carries generally had 15 plus. And so he wasn't exactly playing jungle 2, as I like to call it. Sometimes we see supports rotate, and they're very aggressive like that. Dracomarino just wasn't in lane, but he was really just peeling and setting up for his team, even though he was playing the aggressive with high potential for damage Hercules. He was still opting for the defensive play.
Looks like he is rejoining Warchi back in mid now, which is good. Genetics is also here with DeathPanter, so likely got the call. Supports had rotated out. So far, though, aside from Dracomarino rather being caught out in the middle lane and DeathPanter finding first blood, there hasn't been too much action like what we saw. The invade attempts were there, but both teams were able to defend their own speed buffs at the start of this game, despite some pressure from the supports, and there haven't really been a ton of gank attempts aside from that. So to get things started off, it's still fairly even on both sides.
That's going to be the case for a little while. We saw exactly what happened with Team Queso with the Hebo jungle last time around level 9. That's really when Hebo kind of hits his stride, both as far as abilities and itemization is concerned. He'll have a Bancroft. Until then, WorstTurttle kind of doesn't want to do anything. He will if he has to, but Team Queso doesn't really want to get involved until that kind of sort of checkpoint is met. And Simplicity on the other side, it would be them that I would expect to be a little bit more aggressive earlier on, but starting now. DeathPanter has Kraken, and Froisan has some of the tools to enable that Kraken to hit a little bit better, more reliably now. So I expect Simplicity to pop off a little bit sooner than Queso, and now would kind of be the point to start looking for that aggression.
Yeah, it can be a little bit before Susano's really start getting ready to rock and roll. Would not be surprised if Froisan, you know, round 6 or so starts hopping in and looking for some fights, so that could certainly make some sense there to me. They've got StreakUp on a regular hunter this time, though he does lean a bit into a mage still with a big ability focus, so maybe that's the idea. But yeah, so Muzen Cobb, very much also a hunter. Those autos can definitely hurt. I mean, I don't think the Merlin last game in duo did a whole lot different for them. It did fine in lane and did mage things when they maged. I don't think it made a huge difference in either direction.
It was a carry,
yeah,
and it did the job of a carry. When you put a mage instead of a traditional hunter in that carry position, you lose tower damage, and Simplicity didn't necessarily lose because of lack of tower damage, so I can't point to that. It's just a different character. I'm down. But AMC is kind of the grand
I mean, they had the hunter in mid anyway. They didn't.
Right.
They had everything
That's
a
fair.
comp needs.
That's fair.
I'm just saying. I don't know what
Yeah.
much difference it made for.
Like I said, I think it just comes down to playability.
That might be it. Yeah.
I think DeathPanter was just like, yo, it's good. I'm a better Ullr.
Yeah. That might.
And
That really might
StreakUp
be
was
it, yeah.
like, well, we already picked Merlin. What do we do now? And you know, just like your rankings. Well, I'm not trading.
Right.
Well, I picked Alquan because it was open. Well, I don't play him. By the way, I'm the guy with the absurd voice because I don't play him.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot top tier stuff gets banned in my games
It's
because
me,
I ain't
Fat
playing
Man
it.
Scoop. I don't play Alquan.
A 3v3 here in the middle lane as they were considering looking for some action maybe around those mid harpies, but instead they elect to not bother picking those up, so instead they return to their farm. We talked about how right around now we wouldn't be surprised if Froisan looked for maybe a gank attempt or something like that.
Yeah.
And where exactly we want him, I mean, maybe against this Ullr, they can sometimes be vulnerable, or maybe just right here at the mid harpies as the fight kicks off. Genetics already in the ult.
He's by himself, though. There's going to be a kick and a flip and a whirlpool to separate the opposition. But WorstTurttle comes through with a big old ult, puts the damage down, and Chekio confirms it. StreakUp answers back, taking down WorstTurttle.
Let's make that 1-for-1 to get things started. Jungle for support. So again, Simplicity not feeling too bad. DeathPanter low on mana with Argus here, but he should be safe. Can't say the same though for Chekio, who does have the jump available, but Froisan follows him over the wall, but has to immediately get right back out of there though because Chekio has a posse.
Team Queso kind of lose that engagement, but I love what they were thinking. We were discussing, and we weren't the only ones discussing, that now would be about the time that Simplicity would get a little bit kind of hinky, get a little aggressive, look for a play. And Team Queso were well aware. That's why they were 3 men strong in the mid lane. They said, listen, we've got a Hera with a couple of stacks left to build. WorstTurttle is kind of not really a full jungler yet. And, you know, Dracomarino, well, he's Dracomarino. But on the other side, they kind of have the advantage. So if we stack 3 players, we can kind of keep that at bay. The mentality was there, and good plays out of WorstTurtle and Chekio with the rotation from the left side, and that was a big deal. But at the end of the day, Simplicity just played that team fight a little bit better.
Will come out the better on that one. It's not too dissimilar from a trade we saw in game 1, where WorstTurtle took an early spill in trade for Genetics. So that might be a bit of a trend here in this game, is that Simplicity are okay with losing some members as long as they can make sure this Habois can't farm efficiently and can't get to that point where he can run games by himself. That's a player combination that definitely would worry you in the late game if they got to farm freely. WorstTurtle on Hebo.
Exactly. We saw the results of it last game where Hebo was still mitigated. Relatively went 5-4 and something, 4-3 and something.
Sure.
A nice middle of the pack slash line. But WorstTurtle still really made an impact there. Late game dominance was what we saw out of it. And like I said, Team Queso only hit the sideboard because they have to. Warchi only switches characters
Exactly at the-
because he's banned.
Exactly where I want to see Froisan ganking, though. This Ullr, it's just so hard to get away from a Susano.
Yeah.
If you're Ullr, especially he went Aegis instead of Feeds, there's no way he's getting away from the control. He bought himself a little bit of time, had some good turnaround potential. It just wasn't enough, and they end up getting the kill.
A little bit rough there for the opponent of StreakUp as he finds himself looking real good. But again, Team Queso, basically my point was they've got their same comp. They won game number 1. We all watched it.
Yeah.
And it's up to they're daring Simplicity to not adjust.
The big adjustment would be not pulling a 15-minute Fire Giant. True. That would be the big
That's
adjustment.
fair. I think they were playing a strong enough game to win not as quickly as they did. The Fire Giant kind of, was the NOS button.
Sure.
But I think they were already on their way.
Queso had a good chance, yes. I mean, I think the game was favoring Simplicity, but not like a ton.
Yeah.
It was like maybe 60-40 in their favor, I would say, at that point. So certainly Queso weren't out of it, but as soon as they that Simplicity lost that FG, though, I think they might have been out.
The Hebo, though, you underestimate the Waterman.
Do I?
The Waterman.
I don't know this. What's happening? Is this one of those for you jokes? Is that what this is?
Yes. I have this idea.
Uh-huh.
Argus is dropped.
Yeah, Genetics has to jump away from it. Warchi feeling a little bit too antsy, perhaps. They're dropping the Argus that early on. Maybe he thought there was more backup there than there was, but either way, that's a huge cooldown on cooldown now, and Warchi might be more vulnerable for it.
Right side, still a little bit of a fight. I have this idea that Hebo is kind of like the leader of like the Water Nation. And
Like an Avatar type scenario?
so
or-
I'm unfamiliar with Avatar, but I've seen Into the Badlands, which is like a knockoff show on like Amazon Prime.
I know what show you're talking about.
And it's great. And so these different houses, so to speak, are represented by colors, etc. And there's this deep background. And I think of Hebo as like, I am the water man. And he controls all of the water. And that's like a big deal, both the drinking water and he can like take advantage of people. That's my headcanon.
Okay, and so the only way that relates is that you think Hebo, like, you think he says that when he does stuff.
I am the water
Got it.
man.
Okay, I'm on the same page with you now as Team Queso.
I'm going to write a book someday.
Yeah, go for it, man.
About?
Yeah, put a bunch of words in it, too, as Susano charges up the ult from over the
Aegis.
wall. That was huge initiation, and Chekio goes down. I love the play there from Froisan. He's really stepped up for simplicity when they need him, but they got to be careful. WorstTurtle's out for blood and moving aggressively into Simplicity's jungle. Beads a little bit too late there from DeathPanter. He has to drop
Big
Kraken
win.
to keep himself alive.
Big win there. Getting Kraken out was a big deal. Team Queso could look at the Gold's Fury right now. Despite the fact that Chekio died, they could pull it and look for the fight, and look for the subsequent fight because they do have the Waterman. But I think that Simplicity just are a little bit too present.
Yes, they have a lot of presence right now, and Froisan's play on the Susano is
It's
good.
Christmas.
He's a like Christmas. You're
They
not
got a lot of
on right because
presents.
that's where the presents are. You're not wrong at all. That is true.
I ain't never been wrong.
Yeah, you would never lie.
I ain't never been wrong.
But I've been impressed with Froisan and the way that he's played so far. I mean, because Fails, for whatever you want to say about, the SPL level, he's really, really looked good for Simplicity.
He has.
This year. I've been
He has.
very impressed with him in Season 6. And so those are big shoes to fill. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. Then he had a lot of work to do to come in and replace that for this team. And I think in Game 1, he looked strong. He wasn't part of why they were struggling in any way. And I think here in Game 2, he's been a boom on this Susano. He's part of why they're still ahead in this matchup so far. I love the way he's played for them.
I absolutely agree. I'm with you there. I've always been rather critical of Danny Fails.
Sure.
I feel like he's, just not broad enough. And then
Are
the
we
pros
saying it
talk
wrong?
very
Because
high.
Funballer says Failus.
It's Fails.
Failus, okay. It's not Failus.
I say it just like I say Graham, where it's like real subtle.
fast, right.
Like Fails.
Sure. Maybe I shouldn't say we. I mean me, really, when I say it. Can I say
Yeah.
Failus? But Failus. I think.
Idiot.
Yeah. I really heard it clearly when we did the documentary with Funball and he was
Yeah.
talking about the team.
Failus.
It was really clear he was saying Failus. So
Well,
clearly I must be wrong on that.
Yeah, I think, and again, I don't know if that's a UK thing where they
It could be, yeah.
like, because Americans say Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
Yeah, but Hindu man's name is Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, Graham.
Okay.
My,
I can't believe Handyman's not here and I still have to think about him. What a that's a joke, dude. Get that out of here. As Julio and maniaKK have been
Put
relatively
away on your
even.
trotters.
Yeah, that's how he gets away.
It's me, the gambler.
Their English feet.
Oi.
maniaKK actually has an experienced lead in this solo lane matchup. And so far, he's going the same build we saw him go in game number 1, where maybe there was some degree of question if he was tanky enough. Froisan, though, yet again, right in the thick of it all. No surprise as Warchi goes down. Dracomarino in some trouble as well. That's a big heal he gets off, but it's not enough. A double for the Susano, who's stepping in for simplicity.
This Susano DeathPanter combo has been fantastic. Just the pulls into the ultimates, and every single time it results in either a kill or something relevant. This is exactly what I was going to ask for. Kills are good, but give me an objective, and we got an objective, baby.
Yeah, maybe like the stuff after the stuff, something like that. Well, he was able to make it
That's
happen
terrible.
as Genetics is in some trouble. That transformation or de-transformation, but he sidesteps the wave. He doesn't live, but I love the way he gets out of the way of the water. WorstTurttle pays for his crimes as Froisan returns to complete the killing spree.
Waterman goes down the drain.
Unfortunate. Listen, no one's going to be on my side if I say this,
No, they won't.
but it does sometimes feel like it's hard to hit Hebo. Sometimes. Sometimes. And no one's going to be on my side
I'm
because it's
trying.
so big
I'm
and it's so
trying.
much damage.
I'm trying
and
to
it covers
yes
so
and
much
you.
space.
It's
but it,
so large.
it's gigantic.
so wide. It's tough.
oh, StreakUp uses speed. I think he thought the axe was going to land, but that is enough for Checker to make it out of there.
It's
But
a little short. So
Yes.
sometimes you can like not reach your destination, or you can get sidestepped.
And he kind of stops moving instantly. I don't know if that, you know what I mean? A lot of abilities have, a good point that you're making there. A lot of abilities have sort of like a lead where you can still kind of move them as you fire. Maybe that's part of why I feel a little bit
You've
like
got
that.
a full command.
Yeah, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I want to give a slight bit of credit there to WorstTurttle, but mostly that's genetics dodging.
That's genetics dodging.
Genetics is good at SMITE, man. I don't know any other way to say it.
He's been doing the work this game. He certainly has been bringing it to him on the Fafnir. We've seen it in
And the
previous
Sylvanas,
matches
yeah.
as well. Sylvanas doing work. A much different game here for Simplicity, though, and I think it's been their approach. Froisan has just been able to get off the ground. This is what he wanted to do on the Suquette, but just wasn't really given the opportunity.
Stinger off the mark, so Czechio feels emboldened to step up now. Hail of Arrows lands, but another member does fall. It's Warchi, and I think that was in the 1v1. DeathPanter just catches him out, but now Froisan's rotated over. Doesn't have a pull. It has to be mindful with Dracomarino here, but he's got genetics with his back as well. That's why he jumps back in, but the boulder brings Froisan low, and it'll be very difficult to make his way out now. Good blink, but a better stun from genetics. WorstTurttle can't hit the water hands, but can hit the knockup.
Listen, there's no analysis that you want there.
No.
WorstTurttle came to the left side and hit his 3.
No, I mean, I'm just surprised you're that into the bit. It's not even that you didn't do analysis. I mean, you're right.
I love the Waterman. I mean, I think he's really cool. Basically, you know, we all struggle for human rights right now and trying to figure out different ways to live our life. But at the end of the day, in just under 100 years, maybe, water will be scarce. And that will be an issue for us trying to figure out where we can sustain ourselves. And it will be Hebo at the top of a mountain with 300 bottles of Poland Spring going, I am the water man. And you're going to have to pay tribute or die of thirst.
Excuse me for aggroing here, but what's up? What's happening?
You thought it was he who controls the spice.
I didn't.
He who controls
No
the
one did.
water.
What?
So that's the secondary part. The spice trade is really important in this universe. That's a Dune reference. Come on.
Of course, right? Yeah. Me not knowing Dune references.
I actually, it makes it almost Dune. I feel like is a non-anime anime, so I can see you being into it. Aggro, I think, almost has certainly read Dune.
Oh, it's
Aggro's
like a
bit-
book.
Yeah, it's a very popular book, science fiction, like, you know, that sort of world.
Well, genetics makes the rotation. I think Czechio and Draco thought they had a chance for StreakUp, but genetics' presence is enough, and so they won't commit. They had the aggressive ward there too, so they certainly would have known if they were under duress.
StreakUp stealing 50 gold from his support.
You'll love it. It's kind of his right as the hunter and the most important person in the game to take that farm. So.
You've been hanging out with Taco lately?
Well, I agree with Taco. We're on the same wavelength on this. So yeah, it's mid laners who think they're all that, and they're not. Who's gonna take down the towers, huh? Us. Who's gonna do the sustained DPS? Us.
Mid laners can do that if they pick Solar Chronos.
Yeah, they can do that, but then you're not really that good of a mage.
I don't know about all that. Chronos
Mid laners can't do it because they can't hit their autos. They're used to doing one big ability and complaining. So.
Well, I'm a fan of aggro and he can hit
Froisan in some trouble. He gets pulled back in, and as well as he's played, I don't think he can get away from 4. A nice, easy kill there for Warchi. They even commit several ultimates. No way they were letting Susano slip away.
Just a full-on pile-on right there is really, you know, classic.
They don't have a word for pylon and into the Badlands?
They do, but it's not broadcast.
Oh, that's a really nice cop-out you did. A lot of people will buy that.
When you invent a culture, you've got to invent a subset of slang words and language.
Why is that a rule? You don't have to. Why don't you relearn the words for things just because you want to write a dumb show?
Why do you have to do that? That's fair, but I think that a language and I think that the way people speak is really important to their culture. And if you're going to create a
But you don't have to make a new culture. It's the same world. It's just post-apocalyptic. You can still be
world. We're on planet Neptune, which is not in the same Milky Way, by the way. It's a different planet Neptune.
So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if it's not our world. It's the same world for them pre- and post-apocalypse, and you don't need a new vernacular.
So language lexicon changes based on events in life, right? The Great Depression brought on a bunch of the slang that we say now, and even looking at World War II era, that brought on a bunch of slang. If if civilization fell and we lived post-apocalyptic, I think we'd have a new word or two.
I would speak the same, and I'd be obstinate about it. I'd be belligerent. I'd say all the same words.
Finch in the year 1800. Doth thou look towards me? I bite thee thumb.
It'd
People
be
are like,
20XX, and I'd talk the same way. That's the year.
I bite my thumb at thou, and people are like, dog, what are you saying?
Well, I do bite my thumb, but it's not at you, sir. I do bite my thumb. That's the Shakespeare there.
I like that.
It looks like everyone's going to head around this Primal Fury. Checkio and Dracomarino at least considering it. They've got Julio nearby, but there is plenty of simplicity to play guard dog as well if that's necessary. The Primal can be such a big help when you are trying to take down the enhanced Fire Giant, especially if you can get a couple stacks of that going. And you do damage, you know, to more of the camps and everything too, but at this point you
It's
you basically
Fire
one
Giant
shot.
you're worried about for sure.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to look for. maniaKK is this is really where I love the Jormungandr on the fights on the left side of the map. Fire Giant can get a little messy. There's more geometry around. Here, Jormungandr can kind of see over a lot of the walls that are presented. He can jump to the back line with that ultimate, and I think this is really where maniaKK can leverage what he's trying to do here.
WorstTurttle doing that same build path you talked about last game, the Book of Thoth into the Book of the Dead.
I like it.
To try and give him a little bit of extra survivability here too. We're pointing out that everyone stayed mostly the same as Genetics hits yet another mid-driving strike hammer, by the way, just casually in his daily life. Just something Genetics brings.
Easy peasy. That one was at him. I think that's
A little bit
easy
easier,
because you
yeah.
don't have to change your, like, when somebody is dashing away or not in a straight vector towards you, you do have to change. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, that one was easy then. Yeah.
That was easy. That was easy.
4.
It's Ultra Boy. He had a hit song named Easy. Mid-2000s. Easy, easy. A fresh young rapper like Jeezy. Come on, man. I make the stuff look easy, easy. I actually like sing that in my head all the time. Like I'll like, you know, do something rudimentary, like toss something in the garbage and be like, easy, easy. Finch has left the room, by the way. 22-22 on the clock. We've got 14 kills, and 9 of them belong to Simplicity. It's about a tie game here in our second game in a possible 3-game set. Team Queso owned the first one after
Oh, Froisan might be in trouble on the
a
left-hand
nice little
side.
steal.
There's a 3-man rotation over
the
there on
dash.
Susano. They're locking him down. He has to use the Typhoon defensively, but
Nah, he good.
he's made it back out. It looks like it might have cost him his beads, though, at the very least. But they committed onto the Susano for sure. And that's a fast Dracomarino. Wingblade and Shield of Regrowth. He's zooming.
Zooming. No boo goofing. Gotta watch out for that one. Bees are gonna hit him.
You know, he can't pick up the World Serpent anyway. He was looking for, like, the pull on him.
But he slows him and kind of...
He does, like the
face
daze
under.
effect, yeah. Dracomarino might be in trouble. He's inside the cripple field, knocked up as well by the Kraken, and that's a dead Dracomarino. Not a lot of tankiness by way of against that magic damage. They get away from Argus on the right-hand side, and that means Genetics goes right into the Draconic Corruption. They want more blood here. WorstTurttle in some trouble, gets off the crushing wave, and hits multiple people, but Froisan puts him in the dirt 2 for 1.
That was a really rough play, an uncharacteristic play from Dracomarino. Julio finds another. It's maniaKK on the chase. A good heal off the ultimate, though. Froisan in the back line, getting hit up by Checkio. Jump to dead. There's their Goomba Stomp, number 8 for Team Queso.
That was huge that WorstTurttle was at least able to get a good amount of damage off before he died. That's what brought everyone low enough for exactly this, where maniaKK's in some trouble, and they can find their 4th kill. It's only StreakUp who remains alive. With Checkio this low, it looks like they don't quite feel comfortable. Yeah, I like this idea. You can have someone else tank and just use Checkio for his damage. Its Primal Fury should go down.
A rare misplay by Dracomarino. Turned around by the rest of his team. DM walked in there and just was maybe like 2 footsteps too far.
Sure.
And Simplicity just lock him up in the whirlpool. The whole team's there, collapsed on him. But Team Queso are able to successfully come out, largely because of the damage done by WorstTurttle with his ultimate that hits 3 on the back line. But also, Warchi just walks around and kind of doesn't die. That's the important part. What does he do? He doesn't die. While all of the enemy team is trying to focus down this mid laner, and Team Queso kind of accidentally stumble into winning this team fight that Dracomarino started by stripping everybody's ultimates unintentionally, I think, by getting himself killed.
We've seen some guys do that before in the past. Inbound will do the same play over in console.
The Pesto Man.
Yeah, so there's definitely some plays that are similar to that as Pyro doesn't go down for Queso. But it looks like they're more concerned with the tier 1 tower in mid for now. This is a good call. Simplicity not only are not in position to defend, but probably wouldn't have anyway. Not 25 minutes into a game as he transitions to the enhanced Fire Giant. maniaK very far forward, forced to go into the ultimate. He'll use a couple of these charges offensively, but the last one likely defensively as DeathPanter gets chased out by Argus. Warchi ends up falling to the damage from StreakUp, and maniaK stuck around with Chekio this low.
Chekio's got to run away to the left side. He'll be good. Serket walking through the tower. There's the blink, the driving strike as well. The baseball! He almost hit himself twice. I would have died.
That would have been very funny as WorstTurttle ends up getting caught by a nice play there from Genetics, but he still has time to turn around and get off some good damage, but then after that, maniaK puts him down. Julio finds StreakUp though at the very least, and he's going to keep right on going. Dracomarino wants to tangle as well since there's 2 here, gets off a nice heal, and that's enough for the Hercules to stay alive.
Real good play there from WorstTurttle. I think a lot of mages just try to get out of there. Hebo back into base versus just when you're playing a high damage character like Hebo, just 2 casts of water cannon can change a fight. Even just 1 can claim a life. So by sticking it out there, he does die, but by sticking it out there, 1, knowing he's got Bancroft to do extra damage and potentially heal up, and 2, just providing the DPS, Julio cleans up, and what was likely just a wash winds up going in Team Queso's favor because WorstTurttle stands his ground and casts his spells. A lot of times I think that can be deceptive as a carry, when to stay in the fight and deal your DPS versus when to try and eject.
These scrappier fights have largely favored Queso these last 2 or 3 times. They've been able to just barely eke their way out and come out on top. I talked earlier about this Wingblade Dracomarino was having and just was saying he was going fast, but he's totally right. Look at all these Gem of Isolations on the board for Simplicity. They got one for maniaK, DeathPanter, and Genetics, and even if they didn't have Gem of Isolations, they've all got slows anyway, even StreakUp just in the base kit there for the Muzen Cobb. So if they don't have a sprint, they got to get some Wingblades.
Gotta be moving. Gotta be moving. The crazy thing is Wingblade actually speeds you up. So now as you try to slow down the Hercules, he's just gonna keep zooming. Shield of regrowth as well. I'm walking into that whirlpool. I'm healing and I'm peeling out, baby. Healing and peeling. That's what I'm doing. Healing and peeling.
That is kind of what Hercules does, really. Like he heals and he peels.
And he deals. The damage is real.
And he deals. Does he ever wheel?
He wheels and deals the damage he peels. That's what he does.
Okay, yeah, glad to hear it. That's an easy one. A lot of stuff rhymes with that, though. Like, that can go on all day.
Sure.
You could kneel, you know?
Yeah.
You could reel.
Yeah.
You could feel.
Yeah.
It's too many of them. It's too easy.
You could keel over.
You could keel over, for sure. As the team heads
You
back
could do
to
it with zeal.
the enhanced Fire Giant.
You could eat veal.
They're not ready to pull this one just yet. It's been so much time has passed without anyone even looking for the Fire Giant that we're already at the enhanced version before any real attempts have been made. maniaK's been trying to frontline for this team largely this game, but has been getting his ultimate forced out more times than not. So he'll have to make sure he's extra careful on exactly how forward he positions himself and how far back he wants to play.
Nice pull there from Froisan. But Julio plays the wall, right? I think Hercules likes Ally McBeal.
I know he does, yeah. Yeah.
I was laughing about that to myself.
Do you think he ever leaves out food so he can congeal?
Congeal?
Yeah.
That's where I was at too. I like that.
maniaK, just as I highlighted, might be in some trouble. Ultimate forced out defensively yet again.
Good.
He gets it off in time, though, and is able to make it back out, but cannot use one of their best ultimates aggressively for the team fight. That's a huge win for Caso. It looks like it does cost them the 9 turns blessing, though, from Julio to set it up.
Yeah, it's a little weird. A little weird. I don't know if I love that taunt. But we'll take it.
This is exactly the kind of fight that the Caso are wanting. In fact, they're going to move beyond the Fire Giant pit with maniaKK not here. Just step right up into this tier 2 tower threshold, but maniaKK has returned. This is maybe not the power play they thought that they had. Genetics goes right into his own ultimate as well as StreakUp is just getting beat by Argus. That's a ton of damage to remove the Muzen Cobb from relevancy. maniaKK wants to get in some trouble. A good whirlpool to slow them down, but the boulder and the damage from Warchi are just too good. maniaKK takes a trip back to base the hard way.
Julio stuck under the tower, finally finds his way out. Big knock from Froisan, but he's knocked right back down. Second on the player damage for his team is the WorstTurttle, and he finds a kill as well. He does fall down to the hand of Genetics, surprisingly enough. It's a 3-for-1 in Queso's favor.
And Caso just barely survived that engagement, too.
Yeah,
They were so low on the back end of it. So they really can't do a whole lot, even though they did win the fight rather handily. Froisan's engagement was really good to get off a lot of damage for them towards the back end, as was DeathPanter. He got a whirlpool in there as well. So they at least kept it close and kept Caso from feeling too comfortable while they try and get on the respawn.
So now in a half hour, you've got to ask yourself how teams are going to kind of adjust, because this is kind of a turning point in the game. There's been a little bit of a lead here for Team Queso, and they haven't really leveraged that, so mayhaps not as much of a turning point as I'm illustrating, because this is when things even out. Whatever your gold lead was, whatever your experience lead was, I don't care anymore. Because everything has kind of reached this level of parity where nobody is ahead or behind. So,
Right.
so you've got to adjust the way you look at the game, the way you approach the game. Simplicity has been playing this fast and loose composition. Pull one in and throw everything at him. Or just wait for Draco to walk in and throw everything at him. If the game keeps playing at such a frenetic pace, I think Queso will be able to kind of rise above and take advantage of that sort of chaos.
I am surprised, though, to see DeathPanter this far down in the player damage chart. He's down third from the bottom. I would expect at this point, like 31.5 minutes in, that he'd have gotten a little bit more out of this Poseidon. It's been largely StreakUp's damage and maniaKK in these fights. Now, if DeathPanter just hits even one key target with a Kraken, it might not stack up.
Exactly.
And it'll still do what they want. As Warchi eggs out the Kraken to the middle lane, Argus drops down too, but Warchi in more trouble than he is in any good. Has the health shield, but it's not enough. StreakUp removes him from the game.
Even that one, that Kraken, which was subjectively a bad Kraken, winds up making a huge impact. And that was the first 4 Kraken we've seen. Every other one has really largely hit. Froisan going to continue his reign of terror. WorstTurttle into the enemy team. I don't know about that one, buddy.
He takes everybody to the beach, but it just don't get it done. StreakUp finds Chikio, and now it's just Dracomarino left. And Simplicity might even have a chance to try and even up these numbers, though it depends on how fast they can push through these towers. It's 30+ seconds before anyone comes to join Draco to try and keep this one alive.
So they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm a proponent of that idea on a micro level. Draco actually doing his job here, keeping the man. Okay. I was going to say, Simplicity kind of being distracted by a little boy move.
I like the idea, though. If he could have got back there and maybe got StreakUp or one of these damage dealers, maybe they'd have a chance. But it looks like no. Simplicity are going to move right into the Titan room, and they're still 2 seconds away from Warchi being able to join them to help out. Dracomarino goes down. There's a lot of low HP bars. The Titan among them, and it's well below half. Warchi falls yet again to complete the deicide. Simplicity tie it up, and we got ourselves a game 3.
Very exciting to see Simplicity answer back. And what I started to say there was that we say if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And I agree with that on a very small scale level. If your jungler went 11-1 and you want to replay that, or if your jungler even performed poorly and you want to replay that, that's fine. The entire composition is a little bit iffy because the enemy team has already got the chance to see, all right, so you've got a strategy and composition. I wonder how it plays out. I wonder what the variables are. I wonder what you do when you get in trouble. All of those if, ends, or buts that are in your head, you've shown the opposition. So in game 2, I think it was a little bit too much to go with the exact same comp.
I agree. To be fair, I don't even think that it worked super well for Caso in game 1. It was that Fire Giant play. So I don't know if you really need to be that in love with the comp in the first place. It doesn't quite work for them here in game number 2. And now they got to figure out something for game number 3. But I bet we got 2 guys on the desk who have some ideas. Let's get it back over to them.
Thank you, Finch and Tom. Simplicity forced us to game number 3 off the back of some great AMC play. I was saying during the picks and bans, that's going to be a critical pick one way or the other, and it ends up going Simplicity's way.
Wasn't just the Muzen Cobb out of StreakUp, it was also DeathPanter on the Poseidon, going 6-1 in 10 to wrap up the game. beautiful cripple, I think, to really shut down what Julio was trying to do on the Erlang Shen, what Dracomarino was trying to do on the Hercules, really shutting down Caso's draft.
Yeah, the double cripple between the AMC and the Poseidon, certainly very difficult for Caso to handle. But I kind of agree with what Finch and Tom were saying in that doubling down on this composition when you kind of, you didn't get the win gifted to you, but you had to make a pretty big play in order to win the game, might not have been their best call.
No, definitely not. I think Caso got a little bit too ambitious under that tier 2 tower on the right-hand side, losing a couple of members, and that's what opened the door in the late game for Simplicity to just get back into it.
It was well done by Simplicity. The teamwork certainly there. This AMC, as we mentioned, certainly huge. Froisan showed up and played pretty well again in this sub role. He's done it before, played pretty well then too, so shouldn't really surprise you at this point. But Simplicity continues to kind of skirt the line at times about whether or not it's going to go their way, but that team fight under the tier 2 and mid basically closes it all out.
That's right. The Ullr pick also was a little bit curious out of Chekio when he went for the early Aegis, really getting exploited by Froisan in that early stages.
Just difficult at times when you've got when you're going up against an AMC. I mean, you kind of need that Aegis for the burst damage that's going to be coming your way. I mean, StreakUp was just doing so much damage all throughout. Warchi wasn't able to stay up as often as he would have liked. 3 and 5 on the mid lane Hera. Julio had another pretty good game, 2 and 1 for him, but overall, you're right. I mean, it's DeathPanter and StreakUp set up by maniaKK and Genetics throughout the majority of the game. I think that if you're top 2ing Hercules and Erlang Shen, having this many cripples on the enemy team should almost be expected.
That's right. And where's like the Jingwei, the Hachiman, right? Chekio playing the Ullr. I'm surprised that he's like doing that much damage when he was getting shut down in the early game. Great performance, I would say, from making a mental bounce back. But at the end of the day, Simplicity, you expect these players to show up, and that's what they did in game 2. You can never count them out.
Caso now trying to rebound on that. The mid lane Hera, I think, was okay. I mean, Caso was doing pretty well for themselves. They win a pretty big Gold Fury fight, but aren't healthy enough to stick around. A lot of that was because of Chekio and Julio and Hera doing a lot of work for them.
Oh, yeah.
So they had some moments. It's not like they got blown out in this one, but if you go late game with Hercules support and Erlang Shen solo, sometimes you just don't have the protections you need.
No, they definitely need to switch it up for game 3 picks and bans, because losing like that when they had the game, they had the lead for the majority of the mid game, and they just threw it at the end.